I'd like you to write about 5 things that make it unsafe to talk about diversity in your classrooms.
Things you never want to hear in a classroom ever again. Could be by fellow students, could be by your instructor.
People always focus on exceptions and not the rule. But when you talk about racism, and before I was talking about like archetypes, we'll take Obama for example. He's a wealthy black man, he's the president, and so when you have talks about diversity, people say things like, well, Obama's the president, why can't you be like that, or why can't poor people who are black be like that? And to me, those are exceptions. I think that's a good thing, but that's not the rule. Like, that's not reality.
So it makes it look like that's the norm.
And it makes it look like
yeah.
it's, yeah.
Just a way of putting down too, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Being in a classroom, you deal with competition, you deal with people from all backgrounds, and the unpredictability just ends up shutting you down. And you just stay quiet, or you talk to your family, or you talk to people of your background.
Yeah, that's something Jonathan had said. It's easy to preach to the choir, it's comfortable.
Be open, be aware, ask more. I think we're so concerned about competing and worried about being judged. It's really frustrating. I've never thought I would be in graduate school because of that.
Can you say more about that, Marilyn?
I never thought I was going to finish my undergrad degree because of feeling stupid or feeling alone. Professors not remembering your name or being the only one, brown girl in there. My own family saying, oh, you're not going to graduate. I just wanted to prove everybody wrong, and it was a struggle, and it was a journey. And when I got my undergrad degree 2 years ago, I was brought to tears. I didn't think I would be. Afterwards, the plan is, what are you doing after? And I never predicted that I'm going to grad school, and I just want everyone to know that I felt unpredicted. That's not a good feeling. And if I just had anyone just tell me, you know, you can do it, it would make a big difference.
Sometimes I look up to the professors as guidance. To be successful, I feel you, because when you enter college, if professors, they don't look up to you, especially if you tell them or let them know that you're the first one. There's something saying that, oops, I don't know if you're going to make it because you don't have any role models, you know. It hurts me a lot because I'm the role model, and I wanted to pave the way, and in paving this way to reach my destination, I need your help. It just hurts when you don't have that. It was difficult, like you said, being in the classroom. You have all these assumptions from other students. Just because you're Asian, you're going to be smart, you study super hard, you're going to get straight A's. I do have good grades, not because I'm smart, because I have to double my work. I have to let go of some of my personal wants, like having fun. That's out of the picture. It's all about focusing and studying, because I got no other persons, no other instructors to give me the guidance to it. I've heard professors who say sometimes we have to teach students how to be students.
So maybe we sometimes have to teach teachers how to be teachers.
Lack of experience of the instructors to guide us through talking about diversity. I had the smartest professor ever. I looked up to her. She wanted us to write about diversity issues on campus. I picked a story about Muslims, and in her instructions, she asks me, I saw a couple of people wearing this in the airport. Is this a sign of being Islamic? And I was like, whoa. You know, you're my smartest professor and you're asking me if the veil is a sign of being a Muslim. If you're a professor and you have a student sitting in your class wearing this, just go home and Google it and read Wikipedia, like one paragraph about what is this. This was the most humiliating moment in my grad school ever. She lacked experience to talk about diversity.
The idea of right and wrong in classrooms, just like it's either someone thinks they're right when their views are like discriminatory towards the people, but because they're so convinced that they're right, they defend that view regardless of what anybody says. And if someone thinks that they're wrong, they usually shut up or just go into themselves. It creates this dichotomy in classrooms where you really can't have an honest conversation. So, and then when an honest conversation tries to start happening, people go back and forth. And it's like, oh, this is right, no, this is right.
Well, we see that all over this country, don't we?
Yeah.
Right, we really haven't learned a model of what we're talking about, being curious, taking responsibility, apologizing.
When people put words in my mouth, I say something and then they'll say, well, and it's not like what I heard you say was, you just said that, and then they put their own little spin on it, and it's just like, no.
Gets taken out of context, gets misinterpreted.
Way out of context, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the ones that hasn't been mentioned is fear of reprisal in and out of the classroom. It's just difficult because it's like you try to bring up the issues and then you get people who will actually track your butt down between classes and go, I don't think that's very appropriate to bring up in class. Or I don't like it when you do that. And it's not faculty, it's the students. I mean, the reaction we get from our peers sometimes for bringing it up, at least on my level, hasn't been physical, but it's been brutal verbally. And I just want to turn around and go, why are you afraid of the conversation?
So once again, if it doesn't get dealt in the classroom, notice how it just pours right into the hallway, end up in our communities.
I started to actually stand up for what I was believing in, which was different from what most of my friends would believe. And it's not in class where you're challenged, it's outside of class.
Italian Americans are held up often as a group that, the Italians came here, and when they first came, they were discriminated against, they weren't seen as white, this, that, or the other thing. My family did come and work very hard, of course, but not everybody has the opportunity to see the returns on that hard work that my family did, being legislatively included. And talking about Latinos, well, I don't know why they're having such a hard time, because my family came here and we're fine now. For all of the people that came to this country from wherever and worked hard and managed to achieve a certain status based off that, they didn't do all of that so that you could hold up that experience to put down other people, and especially when it's not a comparable experience.
You need to try harder. Your English needs to be improved. Go seek the Writing Center. I made a lot of transitions into college. I had the lowest English class in the institution, in the college. And it was me and one other friend. We sat together. There's all these other Caucasian students and the teacher who's Caucasian. The first assignment was to write a story. And we turned it in. I was not expecting red marks all over my paper, like bloody paper. And she passed it out to everybody. And then she came all the way to us out loud. You two have the lowest scores of everybody here, and I want you guys to correct it. She put us into groups. All the other students were into groups. My friend and I was put into a group. She has a low score, I have a low score. How are we going to help each other? That's my first thought. I'm like, oh my gosh, we need a new eye or a new perspective, And class was about to end, so she came over to my friend and I that if you need help, come to my office. So I walked into the office and I approached her. I'm like, Doctor, I wanted to improve on my paper. I noticed that there's a lot of mark. Could you sit down with me to look through my paper and help me identify what's wrong with this paper? So she's like, yeah, we could do that, right? Sounds good. And the first thing that came out of her mouth was comparing me to her niece. She's doing so well. She could write so well in English. Her language, her grammar is so well, and she's only 10 years old. And right there, I was terrifying. I'm like, oh my gosh. I feel insulted. I thought that was not a good experience because I came to see you for help, but I didn't get the help. I respected you by calling you a doctor, but you did not respect me as a student. And I thought that was not a good experience. Although she helped me afterward, there were a lot of obstacles that I have to go through to get that help.
Let's move on. We've wasted too much time.
That's so cool.
Woo! Konami can relate to that one. And what does that do to you? What does that tell you?
It just tells me that what we were talking about isn't important. And if you're and usually that's an excuse to move on because it's awkward. And when in fact it's more important than anything you'd ever learn in a classroom. So.
If not now, when? Exactly, they just want to run away from the subject.
Why can't we all just get along? We're all the same. We're all human. And I'm like, please go take an introduction to sociology class. And you learn that we are divided in so many different ways that no sociological group's experience is the same as any others, let alone the individuals. And I'm like, how dare you belittle the experiences of other people? Just, we're all human. Well, okay. And which ethnicity is human?
Don't take it personally. I can't stand that. What led me to that was because I quit college 3 times, and that's why I have such a passion behind, when I graduated, and because of feeling betrayed and not heard. How am I going to believe you and invest my money and my time into you when you don't even want to hear my personal story or what I have to say? So I give up and quit because that's the easy way out. To trust again, like you were saying, Manoa,
Yeah.
And I kept going. I kept at it until I found professors that encouraged me, that took their time out to talk to you, they give you your home number or office hours, walk down the hallway with you.
I just don't want to hear the silence anymore. I think that we need to talk more about this stuff. You're in a class and it could be a controversial class or not a controversial class, but I always find that there's probably 3 or 4 people that will actually participate every day on a daily basis, and typically they aren't people of color.
How did it feel like to hear that, John? Challenge.
Because I think what you said was good, because I don't want to hear that silence either. Black people are silenced because they think they don't have anything to contribute, and then they're just trying to, get there and then get out. I think there's a lot of bitterness and stuff. So I liked what you said, though.
If that sadness could speak, what would it say?
Well, I guess I've just been thinking about all the experiences I've had, and I always thought that I had a pretty good understanding of people and what they've been through, but I don't know. Looking back, I know that there's people I've hurt by things I've said. You can't take it back. It's like, where do you go from here,
When you said that you started to look back at how things that you've said might have hurt people, I've been feeling that way too. And I don't want to hurt people. And it seems almost like it's harder now that I'm more aware of the great possibilities of hurting people. And it's almost easier to be quiet and never say anything. I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to be a part of systems that continue to hurt people. And trying to learn, I feel like I'm hurting people on the way without meaning to, but.
And we all will. And it does hurt people. And that one part in your 9 healthy ways is to take responsibility. How did we get to this place where you could talk safely? What was done here that allowed this to happen?
I'm thinking about whether we're at the place where we can talk safely.
By a raise of hands, how many think there's a whole lot more for us to still talk about in this room? Yeah. And how many of you can sense that it needs to come out and that it's scary to go that next step? Yeah. This is not easy work, is it? We're just at the cusp. Now we're kind of learning some skills. But now we're going to have to open it up, aren't we? It's what we call breaking the silence, isn't it?